What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Rewind Recap Relive channel, of course, but not a Rewind Recap Relive episode. This is instead a fantastic collaboration I did with Anthony from the Titantron. So thankful he had me on because I think we had such a great conversation, such good chemistry with one another, and I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I want you to get right into this because I know you're going to enjoy it, but first, I want to implore everyone listening to please go subscribe to the Titantron on YouTube. He's truly one of the best, and as you can see right here from his production value, bar none. Anthony of the Titantron pod is what you need to get after. He's the cream of the crop, one of the best. Go check him out right now. And as many of you saw the news first on our social media platforms, Rewind Recap Relive is now proudly sponsored by one of the best wrestling brands out there, that being Wrestling Pins. I love what they do, and you're going to hear me talk about them a lot going forward, because guess what? They are helping make the show better for you guys. And just take a look at some of their awesome products over here at their website. They just released the Hulkamaniac pin. They've got the Dead Man. They've got the Bad Guy, and so much more. Stickers, mugs, and they're just getting started. And you are going to have the chance to actually win some of these items. There's going to be tons of Wrestling Pin giveaways on the show now. You're going to get the chance to win some of their great products, so keep an eye out for those. Make sure you check out Wrestling Pins and use the discount code exclusive to Rewind Recap Relive fans, which is going to be RRR, the number 15 off OFF. RRR15OFF. Use that to get 15% off your next Wrestling Pins order. I've kept you long enough from this fantastic collaboration. Next time you see me, you better believe I will be sporting one of the Wrestling Pins so you can see it for yourself in the tux in its full glory. But please enjoy myself and Anthony from the Titantron. Don't forget to go over and head to the Titantron on YouTube, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
Let's get ready to rumble!
It is now time
A little bit of the bubbly.
to turn your attention to
Cause that's the bottom line.
the Titantron.
And it is now time to turn your attention to the Titantron, the podcast made by a wrestling fan for wrestling fans. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. I certainly am having the same because this is the first collaboration of 2021. Couldn't do the Royal Rumble review on my own, had to bring someone on, and the perfect man for the job is Mr. Stylin' and Profilin' himself, the best-dressed member of the League of Extraordinary Podcasters, and that is, of course, Jonah from Rewind Recap Relive. We had a great conversation about last Sunday's event, including a trivia about the Royal Rumble, so stay tuned for that, but beforehand, here's a little bit of self-promotion because, of course, the Titantron can be found on Instagram at the Titantron Podcast, as well as on Twitter at _Titantron. You can find us on all of the audio and video platforms, including YouTube, where you should leave a like, subscribe, and comment on today's video. Also, the merch store is up and running, where you can find your personalized, one-of-a-kind merchandise courtesy of the Titantron at prices that you will want to turn your attention to. So without further ado, let's get to today's episode after this commercial break. Stay tuned, you're listening to the Titantron. And welcome back to the Titantron. We have a great episode today. We're talking all about the Royal Rumble of 2021, but I won't be doing it alone. And I love to say those words because we have a guest on today's episode. It is the host, the Mr. Stylin' and Profiling member of the League of Extraordinary Podcasters, the man with the suit and tie, but I know him best, and you know him best, as Jonah from Rewind Recap Relive. Jonah, how's it going?
It is going great. Thank you, Anthony, so much for having me on. I am so happy to be here on the Titantron. I can't wait for people to turn their attention to both of us for the day.
Sure.
And yeah, so Rewind, Recap, Relive. Let me just, put myself over. I'm sure everyone takes the opportunity to do that on something like the Titantron. What we do is we take a legend and a rising star and we put them together for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour interview. And we hear any advice that's thrown around from the legend or the veteran to the rising star, any questions rising star has, and of course, some good old-fashioned shoot wrestling interview style. We try to steer clear of the negative, so if you're looking for gossip, I would actually recommend the 90s Wrestling Podcast, as I've heard. He goes more for the secrets, but we're more just for some fun wrestling stories and just having a good time for wrestling fans, just like Anthony was saying he does. we've had some great guests. We've had Godfather. We've had Teddy Long, Hornswoggle. Then on the flip side, we've had guests like Nacho Clown. We've had Sky Blue. Those are some Chicago towns. We've had Philly Mike Swanson out of the Philadelphia area, obviously. We've had Tony Cini. We've had Raven. And the list goes on. We just released our 31st episode as we're filming this today. And so we're rocking and rolling. We're having a good time. And I'm loving it every second. So you should definitely check it out at Rewind Recap Relive on YouTube. And you'll find some great interviews, I promise.
That was a perfect plug for your show, I got to say. What I love about your show is that you take, the past and the present and you put them together and, you just have a conversation. So from your end, I'm sure you have seen a lot of wrestling in your day from both, the big leagues like the WWE, but also on the independent scene. You've seen a lot of their work. What was your earliest memory as a wrestling fan? When would you say you first became a wrestling fan?
I first became a fan, and I remember it. I feel like I remember it because it was just such a big moment for me. Seeing as wrestling has always been a constant in my life since then. I was just flipping through the channels, and I saw I believe it was 2006, 2007. It was, when was it? I think it was Undertaker was fighting off the Edge heads, I remember, and then Edge came out. It was during that storyline, so maybe 2007 time period, and heading into 2008. And that was the first time I actually saw wrestling on TV. And then, of course, I did my homework on it, though, and I always found it kind of funny because afterwards I see a lot of people, I couldn't imagine getting into wrestling, as a fan right now, just because I feel like I've witnessed, so much, I'm sure you can attest to as well, that's just happened in the business. And when I got into it, not that not a whole lot had happened, there was a lot. Like I said, I did my homework on the 80s and 90s, even way before that. My friend and I were probably the only two 10-year-olds looking up George Hackenschmidt matches and stuff. We're fascinated with the old wrestling, but yeah, over the years, I just since then, going backwards and then going and just sticking with it every time. I mean, once I saw that first segment with Undertaker, I was hooked, really hooked. And then slowly Jeff Hardy became my favorite. And yeah, that's my earliest memory. And since then, it's just been a wild ride. And I love it. It's my favorite thing. People watch football. Some people choose to watch golf. Some people watch baseball. But wrestling's for me. It's the number one thing.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I have to agree with you. And I like that you said The Undertaker was your first, moment of wrestling that you watched, because that's the same for me. I remember watching this. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I was around the same time as you as well, 2008, 2009. It's just seeing those John Cena, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels around that time was just an amazing, time. Speaking of which, all those three are former Royal Rumble winners. And now I think this is a perfect segue into the Royal Rumble. And let's talk about the two matches, the men's and the women's Royal Rumble matches. Before going into the specifics, I got to ask you, what would you say was your favorite? Which did you enjoy more? Did you like the men's side of things or the women's?
I liked the men's more because I really did. And I put out a tweet about this. A little new to Twitter is Rewind Recap Relive, but we're getting there. But I put out a tweet right after the Rumble that said, I lost my voice at home, from this. And it was true. It really did. The Edge, that false finish was probably the best, turnaround that I've seen since, we all knew Santino wasn't winning, but when Del Rio turned him around in the same fashion, that's how I felt. Just maximize that by 100. It was, oh man, it was so incredible seeing Edge pick up that victory. However, on the flip side, in-ring style of the match, which one did I enjoy better, would probably be the women's, because Rhea Ripley, right now, my first wrestler is always hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but Rhea is 100% my second favorite wrestler right now on the roster. And I love that Bianca Belair took the win. I wanted to be either one of those, but Rhea, man, when she comes out, I get so pumped. Rhea is top notch for me. So watching her come out and just dominate, and then Bianca take the victory too. It was such a well done match. I thought really layered. Plus Charlotte was in the final three, and I know a lot of people were like, "Oh no, is Charlotte going to take this, back to back?"
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was such a good Rumble. I loved them both, but if I had to say just shock value and just pure emotion, it would be the men's Rumble.
All right. Well, that's a perfect segue into, talking about the men's Royal Rumble, because I did see your tweet, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, is because you were very excited about Edge winning. And I was the same, because I remember talking to a few people before the event, and I asked them once Edge declared, I was like, is there any chance that Edge is going to win this thing? Maybe, because I knew that if he was going to be in the match, he would have declared ahead of time, just because that kind of would have diminished his 2010 and 2020 returns. So I kind of expected it. But then when when he announced it, everyone was kind of like, nah, I think it's just a way to set up Randy Orton versus Edge. But then, an hour later, here comes Edge winning the Royal Rumble in surprising fashion. So I was very excited about it. I think a big question that a lot of people are talking about, and one that I want to present to you, especially with both of us being, fans of the result, a lot of people are tying this into another part-time nostalgia kind of thing, that they're bringing in legends around WrestleMania once again to kind of draw in more fans, and ultimately they're not building new stars, as a lot of people say. What's your take on that? Do you think that the WWE should have gone with kind of a younger talent like Keith Lee to win the Rumble, or did you think that Edge is a perfect candidate?
I think Edge is a perfect candidate. I was rooting. So when Edge cut that promo, I genuinely didn't think he was going to win. I thought it was an amazing promo, but I really did think it was just to hype the Rumble. And I thought he was going to be in the final 2, final 3. I did not think he was actually taking the victory. So that's, I think, why I loved it so much, was the shock value there too. But I think, when you look at nostalgia, the first match, Goldberg and Drew, that in my eyes is a nostalgia pull, bringing Goldberg in, because while the match is what it was, some people liked it, some people didn't. Some people liked that Drew took the clean victory over Goldberg. But all in all, the match was 5 minutes. And when you look at when they brought in Undertaker to fight John Cena a couple years ago at WrestleMania, that match was also, I think, 5 minutes. And it's just, when you see these nostalgia matches, like, they don't really go too hard usually. And if they do, then bad things can happen. Edge went nearly 60 minutes straight in the Rumble, coming back from not wrestling since, I don't know, I guess Mania, right? Or the pay-per-view after Mania. Was it Backlash?
Backlash, the greatest match ever.
The greatest match ever, which was a hell of a match, but I don't know.
44 minutes.
It was right to call it. Yeah. 44 minutes. And so I see it differently. And also the fact that Edge can still go phenomenally is just, I don't see it as a nostalgia pull. Someone like Keith Lee, that's who I was rooting for, was either Keith Lee or Big E to actually win the whole Rumble. But they've got time to still do that. And I think Keith was incapacitated anyway due to COVID. So yeah. I think he got pulled. Or he definitely did, because he wasn't in it. And then Big E being champion right now, I thought Big E getting out was a bit strange, that almost eliminated him like that.
That's actually something that I wanted to tie into for our next question, because we're talking a lot about the returns always, and the Royal Rumble is huge for returns. We saw it this year, especially with I guess we would both agree that Christian was probably the biggest return.
Oh, it was amazing, and Edge's face,
it was absolutely perfect. Amazing. Yeah, that was, if anything, that was probably the best moment of the Rumble. Just them, finally, embracing in the ring. It was an epic moment. But a lot of people don't talk about how a lot of wrestlers, since there are 30 spots and not everyone can get their Shawn Michaels Iron Man moment, but not a lot of people looked very great in the Royal Rumble that I picked up on. For me, my number 2 people, I would say one would be Mustafa Ali. I figured that he would get a little bit more of a push here, especially with him being the leader of a huge stable on Raw. Yeah. I figured he would get at least something. Another one, I would also have to say Bobby Lashley. I figured maybe he would go to the Final 4, but he kind of got thrown out by 5 guys altogether. And sure, he got some. Yeah, sure, he got some eliminations, but I don't think he looked as well as he should have. Was there anyone else that you think didn't look as great that should have, kind of disappointed you?
I was gonna what you just said with Bobby Lashley. I thought taking 4 guys or 5 or whatever to eliminate him really did. That was like, they did something well from there. As far as what he did in the ring, I really liked he and Big E colliding, but other than that, there weren't moments that jumped out to me really from anybody's competition too much. Like, you're right, it wasn't over the top or anything. Edge was great, but when you're in a Rumble for 60 minutes, you can only do so much. Thinking of other people who were in there, I liked what Big E did. Big E's always a nice powerhouse. I love watching Big E go, but it was kind of like, I guess the action inside the ring was more by the books than anything. We didn't really see the Kofi spot. Naomi did a spot in the women's Rumble, I know, but it wasn't too spot heavy. It was really return heavy though, which I did enjoy. If we're going to give something away and get something back, I enjoyed seeing Carlito, Christian, Hurricane was cool. A couple, I think there was 2 more maybe, or 1 more return. Then we had Damian Priest.
Well, actually, unpopular opinion, I was actually a big fan of the Kane return. I know that
I was
Kane
too. It slipped my mind.
It was just so random. Because, I kind of figured it was going to happen just because you saw at Survivor Series, he was the only guy that wore his ring gear to that whole little Undertaker ceremony. So I
It
was
looked
like,
like a prank. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe they were like ribbing him. But
Yeah.
once I saw that, I was kind of like, I think he's going to be in that Rumble for sure. But yeah, definitely a lot of returns. I think this was one of the better years for returns, even if some of them were like Hurricane. I think Carlito was a great
Carlito
return
was
there.
fantastic. Yeah.
Especially now that he's going to be on Raw, probably in either in ring, or he's going to start off kind of like MVP was backstage, and then he kind of transitions back into in ring. But he looks amazing
Looks phenomenal. Yeah, they should give him another title run. That's what, like, I feel an opinion I keep seeing, and I don't know what your opinion on this going forward is for Edge since he just won the Rumble. I actually want Edge to win at Mania. I think it can enhance Drew and the whole story in general. I think Drew lost it to Randy. Now he's a 2-time champ. I think he could lose to Edge, and if he decides to go back after it, whatever. But that's of course, that's looking far in the future. But to stick with Carlito for a second, like, I think people write off a lot of these guys who just return because they've been gone. If they're in phenomenal shape, there's no reason why they can't continue on the career they left off. If they can't go, then that's a different story. But somebody like Carlito, I mean, I think he's in better shape than like half the roster right now.
Definitely.
And I think he's got the experience factor, the star factor, definitely the personality. We already know Carlito's got that. So yeah, give him another run. And plus they even put a promo package together for him on Raw, I saw, which was really cool to remind everyone what he's done. So Carlito, yeah, awesome seeing him back, and I'm excited to see what he does.
For sure. Well, that's actually going to tie us into our next topic, which is the Women's Royal Rumble. I got to ask you, because I saw this a lot on Twitter and all social media for that matter, and I kind of have to agree with it. Do you think that this was not one of, because there's probably only, there's only 4. So do you think that this was the best Women's Royal Rumble that we've seen out of all the 4? Because for me, when it comes to returns and how all, the comedy and the drama and the final 3, I think this has to be, maybe top 2, but at least for me, best Royal Rumble from the women's side that we've seen in the past 4 years. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think I said after, I was doing like a little thing with my friend on Zoom, as we do nowadays, like watch party. And yeah, I said afterwards, like, this was definitely the best Women's Rumble I've ever seen. What was it? Has there been 4? Is that?
Yeah, there's been since 2018.
So this was the best one that I've ever seen. The first one was really good in my eyes too. That one was really good because I remember leading up to it, like, I enjoyed that they gave a lot of the women who kind of were in that time period of like the mid to late 2000s who didn't have all the time in the world to go. They gave them the opportunity to come back and go in the Rumble, and that was cool to see a lot of old favorites. Michelle McCool, I think she was in that first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Favorites. Yeah. So yeah, it was either, for me, it'd be this one followed by the first one. Although I will say Beth Phoenix's performance in last year's really got me pumped.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
Beth was a star. So it's tough, but yeah, I would say this one was the best one I've seen.
Yeah, I think for me, overall, like I mentioned, you take in all the aspects that you would normally see in a Royal Rumble, and I think that the women did it perfectly. And then it all comes boiling down to the winner, who was, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Bianca Belair, from number 3, going the distance like Ric Flair in the '92 Rumble, and ultimately winning. That was a little cool note that I kind of drew a connection there, like Royal Rumble, Ric Flair, '92, number 3.
That is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but now you have to think, because I know some other podcasters were talking about it, that, because Bianca Belair was a little younger, maybe it wasn't her time, she wasn't ready. I don't agree with that at all. I think, Bianca is a star. I think she has the character. I think she has the look. I think Vince really said it best, that she has the full package, that if you watch her 24 special, I believe, Vince talked to her backstage, and he said that you have the full package and you're going to be a star. She's gotten a lot of praise from the likes of Paul Heyman. And if you're praised by Paul Heyman, I think you kind of are a good talent in the WWE. But, do you think that she was the right one to win? Was there anyone else that you see winning this? Because Alexa Bliss, maybe, but I didn't see anyone else winning this one.
The only person I saw was Rhea. That would be the only other person who, and that's more from just her being like my, up there with my favorite wrestlers right now. Like Rhea, Oh man, I'm just so over. Like I feel like when I look at Bianca, like same thing. Like I just see like a star, you know. And they're and the good thing about them is, as much as I do love the four horsewomen, they're like a breath of fresh air of being stars, you know, in the women's division,
Yeah.
because we've been seeing, you know, the four horsewomen kind of go back and back. We saw Rousey come in and dominate, and then of course you've got people like Bliss and Nia Jax. But Rhea and Bianca have these such unique personalities, like their own personas about them, that I can't wait for them to like really become a full part of the women's division. I think that's what we're witnessing right now. Bianca's been doing great, but the spot that she was in, I think that's perfect for a Rumble win. I mean, you look at the spot Shinsuke was in when he won the Rumble; it's very similar. So I would say, yeah, her winning was definitely the right choice. The only other person I saw was Rhea.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have to agree with you there, especially because I figured that she was going to be one of the first women to come out, at either 1, 2, there she was at 3,
Yeah.
just because they needed a really good showing from her, similar to what she did last year. I do think that her showing in the 2020 Rumble was better. She got 7, 8 eliminations, just pulled out a really good performance. But of course, this year she won it.
I think she set the record, actually.
Yeah, she did. It was a really, just perfect. That's as perfect as they could have got from, putting a star like Bianca Belair out there and really pushing her to the next level. And I'm looking forward to what they do with her at WrestleMania. But before we can get there, just one more question on the Women's Royal Rumble before we take our first break. And that is, there was a lot of controversy really about them announcing the number 30 spot for the Royal Rumble. We saw it on Backstage, the little show that they did where Natalya faced Tamina, and Natalya ultimately won. And she was in the Royal Rumble. Like, there was no twist or anything that surprise came out. It was just Natalya just went into the match. Were you kind of disappointed by that? Were you hoping to see someone else show up, or what do you think?
It was a little lackluster. I was hoping to see, like, if Bianca was going to win, I understand, like, why go through the trouble of getting like a big return for it. But it was a little disappointing. Like, I wish that, I know that they announced Orton and Edge from the beginning, and I thought that was good, because it kind of was like, hey, Orton and Edge, this is it. Like, it's not in a real match. Like, we've been, everyone thinks they're in a blood feud. They're never going to get away from each other. Well, we're going to give you them here as spot 1 and 2, but it's not a match. There's a lot going on. So I thought they did that well. Natalya is 30. I like Natalya. Nothing wrong with Natalya. Obviously, she wasn't going to win the Rumble. I think anyone could have predicted that this year.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, I guess, just something that they did, like a throwaway. Like, it didn't bother me too much, but seeing it happen, I remember being in the moment, and 29 had come out, and I'm like, oh my God, we still have a spot. And then I literally remembered, oh, they told us it's Natalya. So that was kind of a letdown, just because of the Rumble, aura itself. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. It's no problem with it because Bianca won.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way that I felt about the men's Royal Rumble, because, we got up to number 30, number 29 was Seth Rollins, which was another return that we forgot to mention that I think was a really well-done return there.
But I knew 30 would be Strowman. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even remember. We got up to number 30. I was like, oh my gosh, is Brock Lesnar coming out? Who are we going to get right now?
Right.
Even if, any surprise would have been good. If Goldberg would have came out there at number 30, at least it's a surprise. But then,
exactly.
We got Braun Strowman, and I was kind of like, all right, whatever.
So then
it kind of narrowed the field, though, because at that point I had no idea who was winning. I was thinking maybe Rollins, but then to see Edge win was just, like we've already talked about, just an amazing moment. And I think you got to agree with me that both of these Royal Rumbles this year definitely delivered, and I'm looking forward to where they go from WrestleMania.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely delivered. Most excited I've been on a road to WrestleMania in quite some time, I'd say.
I think we need a road to WrestleMania after this year. I think so.
Seriously.
Yeah. But that's all we really got for the men's and women's Royal Rumble. When we come back after this short break, we're going to talk about the road to WrestleMania and how we would do things, how we would book some of these world title matches where we see other important factors playing in. We're going to book this road to WrestleMania after this. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Titantron. And welcome back. So we talked extensively about both the men's and women's Royal Rumbles. We were going to talk about the world title matches, but I figured it's better off because we were going to talk a lot about fantasy booking, right? That's always a big thing for the wrestling podcast community entirely. So I figured let's just put it all together. Let's talk about, how we would book the road to WrestleMania. And we're going to start things off with the World Championship picture, both the Universal and the World Heavyweight title. So I think the big question that we're all wondering now, now that Edge has won the Royal Rumble, is who is he going to challenge? Is he going for Roman Reigns, or are we going to get this interesting story with Drew McIntyre? For me, I was leaning towards the route of Edge versus Roman, just because that's, the heel versus the face, and that's the typical match that you would see. You can get a lot of story in with, Christian and Jey Uso. The promos with Paul Heyman would be excellent. But now after this Monday, I don't know. I'm starting to see that Drew McIntyre might be an interesting candidate, just to have something interesting out of this WrestleMania. That's not to say Edge versus Roman wouldn't be, but this is a pairing that I'm kind of looking forward to. So I might be leaning there. Jonah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you would say as an Edge fan. Would you rather see him go against the Scottish Drew McIntyre or the Samoan Roman Reigns?
I would see, with him going against Reigns is so strong right now. And I think since Reigns picked up that win against Drew, what was that, at Survivor Series when they had their match? When he picked up the match against Drew, I think it kind of cemented, like, all right, these are the top dogs. Like, we're at like a Rock and Austin-esque similar like feel right now. But Reigns is still stronger than Drew. He's just like at the top of the mountain. I think Reigns is one of the strongest heels we've seen in so long. He's so believable.
For sure, yeah.
Everything gets done so crisp. It's perfect. And yeah, Drew is right up there as a face too. He's not at like Super Cena level, I don't think, where he just like could knock anyone, including Reigns, out of the park. But I think he's up there though. Is Drew right now? So I would want to see Edge go against Drew, only because I almost wouldn't want to face the backlash that the internet would have as an Edge fan if he knocked over like Roman. Which, because I want Edge to win. I said that earlier. I want to see Edge win at Mania. I think it's the perfect comeback story. I think everything about it just works. Edge winning the title at Mania, holding it for a little bit, and then losing it to Drew. I think if you just look past for a second too, just like the wrestling and whatever kayfabe is actually left in wrestling, Edge as a person, like, isn't the type of guy to just, get booked over a young star and be happy with it. Like, he's going to take that and do something with it to help Drew. He's not going to do that to excel him. Edge is a 10, 11 time champion at this world champ. So he knows he doesn't like need it, but I do think it would actually, it's good storytelling. He's scratching clawed from spot number one, and to do all that and then lose at Mania, it's possible, but I just don't see it as the right move from my opinion. And I'm all for putting over stars, but I think Drew is there, and I think he can take the reins, losing the title or not. I think Drew's going to be the guy going forward. So he loses, he wins it back from Edge. I think it's going to be great. I think I see Edge challenging Drew. To put it out there, just because it just happened, I don't see Edge challenging Balor. I see that as just like a thing that they did. But yeah, I think it's going to be Edge and Drew. I think it's going to be some interesting storytelling. Drew is at that point where he's a nice guy, but he'll also kick your ass, which I love. I love that mentality. And I think it's going to be a great match. And every promo Edge cuts right now is top tier. He's the total package. We always knew that, but Edge right now is better than ever. So yeah. I cannot wait to see that.
I think we talk too much about part-timers in a negative light. Like, they are there kind of to get the popularity boost. But at the same time, you look at guys like Edge that are really there to, in this spot, put talent over. And sure, like we talked about earlier about maybe a younger guy should have won the Royal Rumble. I feel like there's too much of a story here to really, go for, than it's just being another part-timer wins kind of thing. You mentioned scratching and clawing from the number one spot, not to mention he was retired for over a decade and now came back, tore his tricep, is now back again, and is ultimately going to try and win the title that he never lost. He never, lost the World Heavyweight Championship back in 2011. So I think that this is an epic story. And I think that if they really wanted to help a younger talent out, if I'm the WWE and I'm looking at it from that light, I would go also with Drew McIntyre. Just because, if you really want to help Drew get to that babyface, star power level that they're hoping to get him at, and that he's basically almost there already. If they're looking to get him to the next level, I think putting him with Edge, and like you said, he can win or he can lose. It doesn't really matter, because having those two go at it will definitely help Roman if we're looking at it from building a new star. But then you look on the flip side. So I think we both agree that Edge should go for the WWE title. How would you decide Roman Reigns' challenger now? Because, you could go the route of Elimination Chamber, which is a pretty typical route. But I was actually thinking to pull kind of like a 2013 John Cena and let him decide his opponent for the WrestleMania, because we remember John Cena decided Daniel Bryan for his opponent for SummerSlam 2013, and Roman being the tribal chief that he is, I think he has the power to pick his opponent. How would you book it? If you would book an Elimination Chamber, who would you throw in there?
For the chamber, I got to think about that a little bit. For Roman, I want Roman and Bryan. I think that's a great match. I think that as fans who watched during like the WrestleMania time, 2014 area, and like going into 15 and 16 when Reigns started being just like hated immensely, I think we could all attest that like Reigns just wasn't who they wanted. They wanted Bryan. Like everyone wanted Bryan at that point. We were getting Reigns shoved down our throats. So if they go off that, I think that's perfect. Other than Bryan, like from a star power point of view, like I would love to see someone like Cena, but I know it wouldn't like mean much to Ray. I mean, getting a win over Cena clean at Mania, that's pretty cool, but I don't know if it would how they'd fit it in. There's no long-term build with that unless Cena sticks around with it, which I don't see him doing. My dream, which would be amazing to happen, is to have Samoa Joe hop off commentary and be the one Samoan not at Reigns' table and take him on at Mania. I think that'd be awesome.
I like that a lot.
That's my dream right there happening. I wanted that to happen at Rumble. I saw that. I don't think they were teasing it. I don't know if it's too much of an obscure point of view for them to even realize people have, but I saw them put him on commentary. I was like, oh, please hop off the commentary table.
Yeah.
Just get in there.
I texted Nick from the Ring Fanatics podcast. Shout out to them, by the way. I texted him definitely. Samoa Joe's going to be in there. Like, there's no way that you could tell me that Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Samoa
Joe. That's what I said.
Because, in that case, they usually bring in like another like Booker T or Jerry Lawler to kind of fill that slot, like a JBL. But really, to put in Samoa Joe there, it was such a weird dynamic. So I also thought that Joe was going to be in the Rumble, but, oh well.
Yes. Oh, well, exactly. So maybe we see Joe and Reigns, but I doubt it. That'd be my least, I don't see that at all happening. Bryan, though, Bryan, I think, is who's going to take it. And if I saw them set up like a chamber, if they put Reigns, are you saying if they put Reigns in a chamber?
Or if they put either that, or if they put in 6 guys for the number one contendership.
Man, that's a lot of guys. Let's see.
Yeah.
So Bryan, I think Bryan would be in there, and I think if he is, he wins. Other than Bryan, you definitely got to go with Cesaro. You definitely have to go with Shinsuke because those guys were huge favorites. And let's see, so that's 3. They put Big E in there too. Could definitely see.
What about Jey Uso?
Jey Uso was a favorite that a lot of people thought was like he was on people's list to win the Rumble, and I didn't see that. Like I don't see Jey winning the Rumble yet.
Was he in the Rumble? I don't even remember if he was in there. I don't think so. I don't think so because I feel like he would have had a bigger presence if he was.
Was he even there? Was he even there? Because I didn't see him interfere with Reigns.
I don't think so.
Now that I think about
very strange. Yeah, because Paul Heyman was the one that did the little handcuff spot, which was the only bad thing about that match. But
the air out of that match. But it was a great match. Took all the air.
Definitely, 1,000%.
But yeah, so I'd say I would put Uso in there. But I think they'd have to. I think we're too close for them to turn Uso around to hate Roman, unless Uso is put in there by Roman to stop everybody else type of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I feel like if you do the breakup angle again, it's kind of just like, all right, here we go again. But like to kind of throw him in there as like a kind of like a plot to work from the inside.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get, and oh man, who they'd put in there is probably Owens, but he'd lose. It'd probably be. Unless he wins again, which I don't think. I advise against having Owens and Reigns for a 4th time. I loved this storyline, but I think the 3rd time is the charm, and it ended kind of abruptly. I think people don't really want to see it again. Like he choked him out after like a hellacious match. It was just a guillotine. It was like that.
Right.
But to stay on topic, let's say I would say Cesaro, Shinsuke, Bryan, Big E, Jey Uso, and Kevin Owens would be my chamber that I see them making.
That's honestly perfect.
And I see
That's the
Bryan,
exact lineup I was going for.
yeah, and I see Bryan taking it. And that's my fantasy book for Reigns at Mania. It would be Bryan, and then it'd be Drew and Edge.
Nice. I love, like you mentioned before, I also love that Samoa Joe point. My fantasy match is always, and I'm sure this goes for a lot of other people as well, Roman Reigns versus The Rock. We're not going to get it this year, obviously, but
yeah, that would be my
the
dream,
match that they used to. Yeah, that might be the match that they used to sell out AT&T Stadium next year, though. If they want to get 100,000 fans, Roman Reigns and The Rock is a pretty big money match there. The one that they could really get fans in. But moving on from the men's now, let's look at the women's championship side of things. So I think it's pretty clear who Bianca Belair is going to be fighting for this title, and obviously it's Sasha Banks. What are the odds that what are the odds that Bianca beats Sasha for this championship? Because, you want to make a new talent. That's great, but you also have to look at it like Sasha's on The Mandalorian. Sasha's easily the biggest star that they have from the women's division right now. Do you think that they would pull the trigger and go for Bianca Belair winning the title at Mania, or do you think it's too soon in that regard?
No, I think I definitely see Bianca taking the belt if she fights Sasha. I know Sasha's got the star power, but it's also like, and yeah, she should hold on to the belt. Like it shouldn't just be like win it, lose it, like Charlotte. But it should be holding the title, being dominant with it. But I really think that Bianca pulled this out. I think that there was just such raw emotion that it'd be so weird, kind of similar to Edge. It'd be so weird for them to make it all this way and then not win. Right. Like I don't see it. But maybe, Sasha is up there with my favorites too. Sasha is killing it. Like she is.
For sure.
Every time I see Sasha, Bayley too, really the whole women's division, NXT's number one women's division in the world in my eyes. And then it goes to main roster from there. But yeah, I would see Bianca winning it. I don't think it's crazy to see Bianca taking the title, especially since she's been she's been victorious. She's been, kicking ass on main roster, but she really hasn't gotten that opportunity yet. And I think this is that opportunity. So to squash her build like that would just be, I wouldn't enjoy it that much, but we'll have to see. But I see Bianca. I choose her to win. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. I mean, squashing her build like that is a very WWE thing to do. We've seen it before with Shayna Baszler. We've seen it with Asuka, but who knows? Maybe they're going to do something different this year. Who knows? But, you also have to look at it on the other side of things because, Sasha Bianca, there's this huge match that everyone's talking about. No one seems to be talking about, or really cares about for that matter, the Raw women's division and what they're doing with their championship.
I have a suggestion for that, actually. What I thought immediately, as soon as you're saying that, just while it's on my mind, I think Becky's coming back for that. That's what I see happening.
Okay.
To take
Why do you
it
think
back.
that? Do you think she's like the only woman that can go up against her at this point?
I think right now, yeah. I think it's the only match that we could see that we'd actually like get invested in, just because Asuka, she's either fought now or before, and I know it would be different now with the belt, but it's just like it seems like that title's almost gotten stale, and I feel like I don't know if this is a reason or a way to cover it, but the fact that the world champion was just holding the tag team belts and was defending those instead of really caring about the world title, that's pretty big. So I don't know if that was a way for them to kind of, put the belt on the sidelines a little bit, or if that was what caused the belt to be on the sidelines. But either way, the only match that I could see really like getting invested in would be, that's not true. I'm sure there's some that they could pull out, but Becky and Asuka would be really cool. The story would be there. Obviously, had to give it up, back to take it. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. And I think that we need someone like Becky back. I don't know if she's going to come back as the man or what. I feel like that was amazing. Maybe it's run its course, maybe not. Depends on what they bring back. But Becky Lynch in general, the suplex machine, Becky Lynch, that'd be really cool to see her back in there, take the belt from Asuka, because as much as I love Asuka, the belt kind of hasn't really been doing much.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to see Becky return as a heel. And I know that the whole man gimmick developed from her being a heel. And then, in typical fashion, the fans loved it. So they kind of had to turn her face. But now we're in, the Thunderdome, and there's no real reason for her to turn face, so soon. So if she wants to immediately go back into the women's title picture, that's kind of a perfect way. You show up, you turn on Asuka. I really like that. Turn heel and ultimately have that match. I think that's a huge match that they could go with. Another kind of match that I was thinking about is if they go for Elimination Chamber to take the title off of Asuka, because we don't even know if Asuka is going to have this title into Mania. She's not
That's true.
one of those top women that the WWE kind of relies on for these matches. It's obviously the 4 horsewomen. So for me, I'm thinking maybe they put the title on Charlotte, and then we get the rematch from WrestleMania last year, Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. And now here's your crowning moment that
Oh,
Rhea can win the title.
I'm behind that.
Because,
Yeah.
if things were different last year, I'm sure that Rhea maybe would have beat Charlotte in front of fans. But now we're in front of fans. So maybe this is the perfect time to go ahead and let Rhea win the title. Do you think there's any shot? Well, here's a better question. Do you think Asuka is going to walk into WrestleMania as champion? Because from the way she's being booked, we haven't really seen her a lot outside of like the Alexa Bliss stuff. Like, I don't really know. I feel like their safer bet is Charlotte, and Charlotte's usually the top woman that they go with. So do you think they're
Right.
going to go with Asuka here?
No, now that you say that, I mean, I see the next defense Asuka has if it's against somebody credible. I'll say like a Charlotte. I was gonna say like an Alexa, but Alexa's so embroiled with storyline right now. I don't know if it'd be her. But for example, yeah, like a Charlotte, I say she loses. Yeah, I don't see Asuka picking up a big win next time she defends that title. And if that happens, I'm all for it. And I want Rhea to take that title because I think Rhea, as I said earlier, Rhea is, oh man, she is the strongest like personality in ring total package in my opinion on the roster. Like is Rhea
For
Ripley.
sure.
Like she is such a star. I can't wait to see what she does. But yes, so I would say if it's next defense Asuka has, she's gonna lose it. So I would say we're not gonna watch her walk into Mania if she defends it at Chamber. That is,
Yeah.
which I hope she
Yeah,
does.
I think there's a lot more options for Charlotte this year as the champion. That's not to say that I'm looking forward to seeing Charlotte getting the title, but you have you could even do Charlotte versus Asuka with either of them as champion. You could do Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. Not the ideal match, but you could also do Charlotte versus Lacey Evans. There's definitely a story there.
Ooh.
I'm not a fan of it, but I know that some people are. And if they're looking to make Lacey Evans a star, that's kind of the only way that I could see them doing it. So I have to agree with you. I don't really see Asuka going into WrestleMania as champion. If she defends it beforehand, then she's definitely losing it. But for me, I do really want to see that Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley match just so we can get like the true crowning moment of Rhea that we've been all
Exactly.
looking for. But, we talked enough about the title pictures. Let's go into these other matches because, WrestleMania is a 2-night event this year. So we are going to have a few matches booked. One of these that I'm not sure if they're going to save for WrestleMania or if they're going to put on Elimination Chamber is The Fiend versus Randy Orton. We've already seen, history with them. We saw the Firefly Inferno match, which was a cool visual, but, a little weird. Do you think that this is headed to WrestleMania, or do you think they're going to kind of pull a full stop and stop at Elimination Chamber? Because if I had the pen, that's a
Yeah,
little nod to one of my segments. If I had the pen, I would
I
put
know that
Randy
segment.
Orton.
Yeah, big
Thank you.
fan.
Thank you about that. If I had the pen, I would go ahead and I would book The Fiend versus Randy Orton in a Firefly Funhouse match, because who else outside of maybe Triple H is there to really be the perfect topic for a Funhouse match like we saw last year with Cena? Randy Orton has had a very historic, long, controversial career in the WWE. So if
Yeah.
they were to tap into, the tip of the iceberg of Randy Orton's career, I think that could be a very interesting segment.
Are you
But
saying for
that's
Chamber? By the way, is this
no,
for
for
Chamber?
WrestleMania. In my eyes, the Firefly Funhouse match would be the Fiend's
For Mania.
WrestleMania thing, and that would be his thing every year until we ultimately retire the Fiend. But I think this is a WrestleMania thing. That's even if we get this at WrestleMania. So what do you think? Do you think they're going to go full in on this, or?
The only reason I disagree with that is because we're going to have people at Mania. That's the only reason.
I thought about that. Yeah, you're very right on that.
That like the Firefly Funhouse, it was interesting. Like I personally, the first time I watched it, I mean, I liked what they did. I enjoy when WWE is transparent, especially and like shows the fans what we all talk about on a daily basis on social media, and they're like, hey, we're listening, like we may not act like we are, but we are, and this is all of what you guys have been bitching about forever, and we're putting it into a match. So that was a cool aspect of it. But the Firefly Funhouse, like, I feel like it would just need to change a little bit, like, for it to work in front of people. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe cinematic matches, that was the one thing to come out of COVID for WWE that was really good, was that they honed in and got those over, and that's just what they do on occasions now. But I feel like 20,000 people watching, like, a TV screen for, 15, 20 minutes after being inside for like a year now is just, I don't know if that's the way to go yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that's why I thought you meant Chamber. I could totally see them. No, actually I retract this statement, because I agree with you. That's a Mania Fiend thing, is the Firefly Funhouse, but it would just need to change a little bit in my eyes to work in front of 20,000.
Yeah. Because sorry, go for it.
I was going to say that, do I see Randy and, Fiend having a hard stop at Elimination Chamber? I don't. I see them going to Mania. And I guess I see Randy, because at this point, losses don't really affect Randy. He kind of just powers through, and he like comes back better than ever. So I could see Fiend going over Randy at Mania in like just a typical match. Maybe a Hell in a Cell, maybe something like gimmicky like that. But
I didn't even think of that. That's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, you do bring up a really good point, because, I take it from experience, being at a wrestling show for the WWE. They usually put on like vignettes, and they put them on the big screen, and they turn all the lights out for like 3 minutes, and no one pays attention unless it's like something interesting. No one's watching that for like 3 minutes, let alone 15 minutes.
Exactly.
So I think you definitely have to change it up. Maybe you do half of the Funhouse match cinematic, and then do half of it in the ring. How you would do that, I don't know, but that's kind of a way to work around it. But I do like the idea of Hell in a Cell, just because they really save Hell in a Cell for the big feuds nowadays at WrestleMania, right?
At WrestleMania,
yeah. The only guys that you've really seen was the two of the Undertaker matches, right? Triple H and Shane McMahon.
End of the era,
Yeah. So, this isn't to say that this is anything like a huge feud that warrants a Hell in a Cell, but this has been one of their longest booked feuds that we've seen in the last few months. So if there's any feud that deserves Hell in a Cell, it would be this one. It also fits with the whole spooky gimmick that we've seen, because how further can you go than what we saw in the Inferno match, where he literally lit him on fire? Like, we're not going to have like a regular one fall to a finish match to end off this feud. I think, if anything, you really need to, and it'll also help the credibility of Hell in a Cell, because, not to get off track a little bit, but Hell in a Cell, as we've seen it, it's died out. Like 2018, the match between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman ended in a no contest because of Lesnar. The year after that, do I even have to bring it up? 2019, Seth Rollins and The Fiend was not a great look.
I think they could redo that with Orton, and like make The Fiend kind of, he's already strong again, but kind of be like, listen, forget that. Forget the DQ Hell in a Cell.
And I think they definitely need that after the few bumps that they've had in the road with The Fiend. But, moving on to the next match now. And we talked a lot about Big E during the Royal Rumble segment of this match, because Big E is such an interesting guy to look at, going into WrestleMania, because there's different options that you could go with. But I'm completely drawing a blank, because I don't know if, they're going to have maybe an Intercontinental Championship ladder match, if it's just going to be
That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
That's what you're hoping for? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you think they're – okay, so, I think also they're going to go with the ladder match, just because it's a safe bet. It's a good way to start off WrestleMania. And this is actually a good way to tie in a lot of the feuds that we've seen on SmackDown, instead of having one-on-one matches, because this might be a controversial opinion. I don't want to see Cesaro versus Shinsuke at WrestleMania, just because I don't think it's a WrestleMania match. Just the way that they've been booking it. Elimination Chamber, sure. Fastlane, sure. But I don't see Cesaro versus Shinsuke one-on-one with no title attached to be a WrestleMania match. However, when you put those guys along with Seth Rollins, maybe even Jey Uso, guys like those, and you put them all together in the match, and also tie in Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews, that's more of a match that gets a lot more people involved. So what do you think about that? You think they're going to go the ladder match route?
Yeah, I think so, especially with guys you just mentioned like Sami Zayn, Apollo Crews, maybe even putting Owens in there. It's enough time to kind of forget about Reigns and have him. And you know what? If Owens does go in there after the work he's put on in this Reigns storyline, I kind of see him winning it, you know, and I
Yeah.
could see that being like to soften the blow of losing 3 times to Reigns. But I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I think that ladder match is going to be off the charts. Big E, I think, has been great with the championship. Maybe great. Like I don't know who has he really defended it against. Big E, the Intercontinental Championship.
Just Apollo Crews, from my knowledge. I
Just
think it's
Apollo
just
Crews.
maybe Sami Zayn, but I don't know
Maybe
about
Sami
that one.
Zayn. So I guess it just like for me, I love Big E, so it just looks good with him with a championship. But yeah, maybe it's time to maybe he retains it. You know, who knows? But I want to see the ladder match at Mania. I think that'd be really great, like you said, to start it off. I know they've been doing that recently to make it a point to have at least some type of ladder match at Mania. They had the kind of weird tag thing at last year's Mania, right? Like one
Yeah,
member from each tag team.
yeah, because of the whole, I think the Miz got
COVID.
COVID, so they kind of just did a
Yeah.
triple threat. I like that, though. I like that they still think that the ladder match is an important enough match to have
It
on
is,
every
yeah.
year. So I like that a lot. It was a weird dynamic seeing the ladder match in the Performance
But
Center,
they picked
I
the
was
right
a fan of it.
guys. They picked the
Oh,
right
for
guys,
sure.
though.
Yeah, Kofi Kingston. Well, I
And
mean, now you have to
Morrison.
think of like Jimmy Uso or Jey Uso, but I like seeing Jimmy in there, and
Yeah.
John Morrison, of course. So yeah,
Right.
that was an excellent match for sure.
But I think the ladder match is what's going to do with the Intercontinental because there's just so many guys. And I like that it always seems to be that way, too. Like, there's just a lot of guys gunning for it at this point.
Right.
So we'll see. Maybe Big E loses it, or maybe he puts on like a hell of a defense at the Chamber that changes all of our minds, and then it brings somebody else into the feud, maybe. But I see at Mania, yeah, I could see a really great ladder match. And, oh, my God, one with Owens and Zayn in it, too, would be really cool.
Yeah, it's a little tie back to how we saw the ladder match at WrestleMania 32 with Owens and Zayn.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
very minor part in their overarching feud, but I think it's pretty cool that we see another little ladder match moment
My
between
thoughts
the
exactly. Yeah.
two. So, you know, we look at kind of the future stars in Big E, but now we also have to look at the part-timers and the guys that are really going to draw in the casual fans. And this will be our last topic before we take our advertisement break to promote Rewind, Recap, Relive. But I do want to talk about, you know, who do you think is going to show up as a part-timer, kind of get that popularity boost? Because you also have to think the WWE network was bought out by NBC's Peacock. So they are going to do as much as possible to get the casual fans to watch. We've already seen Edge. I'm sure that we're going to see
Triple H.
maybe, who was that?
I think it's going to be Triple H, and I think we're going to see AJ Styles and Triple H. That's the match I'm hoping for.
That could
as
be
like the
great. And I
casual
know
match.
AJ really wants that match. And especially now that it was either, for me, it was either AJ versus Triple H or AJ versus Edge. And now we obviously can't get that one. But I do like AJ Styles versus Triple H. Do you think we're going to see Cena? I know he posted something like that. He's not going to be
He said
there,
it's like
but
mathematically improbable, but I think that he still hasn't missed a Mania. So it's kind of like, you know, we'll see him in some capacity, whether he's as a fan coming out for that 5-minute match with Taker, or he returns to help The Rock, or like, you know, he's always there in some capacity. So I don't know if we're going to just see him in a segment, or like last year, or that was 2 years ago, Thugonomics, which, by the way, you mentioned, were you at that Mania?
I wasn't. I had I wanted to get tickets for it, but we bought them too late, so I couldn't. I actually had tickets for 36. And then that happened. Yeah, it was.
You're repping New York too, so you know if it's in New York or Florida, you're gonna go, right?
Of course, yeah.
It's close.
Well,
enough.
I mean, if it's in Texas next year, I'm making sure that I get tickets because I need to go to WrestleMania.
Right.
But yeah, no, you mentioned the New York WrestleMania with Dr. Thugonomics, and that was a great segment.
Loved it.
So Cena's also
so
made it a
much.
point to say, you know, that he has never missed a WrestleMania, never wants to miss a WrestleMania.
I don't think he's gonna miss the first one back with fans either. I really
definitely.
don't see
And
that.
I don't think Vince wants him to miss the WrestleMania with fans. So I think he'll do everything in his power to make sure that he will be there. Another little controversial topic. Do you think we're going to see Undertaker?
I mean, I want to see him, but I don't want to see him in a match. You know, like I want for those people, because I'm personally not going to be at this Mania, even though I just said Florida. It's just a little too COVID-y right now.
Yeah, it's too risky. Same
too
thing.
risky. But I'm gonna watch it on the network, and I want those people there, and I just want to hear a pop because Taker retired in the pandemic. Did he have a match last year? No, right? During the
Boneyard.
he had Boneyard. Completely blanked. My favorite match of the show, probably.
Well, we didn't see him at the WrestleMania before. We saw the little Elias thing the next night, which was weird because he was there. So I don't know.
He was.
We did see the Boneyard.
I will
match.
say Thugonomics was a bigger pop. Taker coming out would have been cool, but Thugonomics. Anyway, though, I want to see Taker in some capacity, but just not in the match. If Taker just walks to the ring, says even if he opens the show, thanks for coming, and then just goes home, that would be really cool. I would love to see him just in a capacity, just there, because he to retire, have your last match and then actually retire segment, whatever, in a pandemic is a little depressing.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, even if you just pull like a WrestleMania 30 kind of thing and just bring out Hogan, Austin, and The Rock, how they did it then, kind of do the same thing for this WrestleMania and bring out, I don't know who you'd bring out with Taker, but have Taker be that third guy would be, guys like that would be a really cool, just kind of have closure on the whole, Undertaker retiring in front of no one.
Yeah,
I think this is a good way just to have that final pop for the Undertaker in the dead man persona, because I'm sure we'll see him in some capacity as Mark Calloway later down the line. But for now, I think they really need to just get that one final go as the Undertaker, just to get him in front of fans. And I think a lot of people would really appreciate that. So that's all I had for the going into WrestleMania, the road to WrestleMania, if you will. We're going to take another short break. This time around, stick around and make sure you watch it, because we are going to learn more about Jonah's Rewind Recap Relive show, and you're going to learn about how amazing of a show it is. Stay tuned afterwards, because we are going to have a little bit of a trivia. First time ever here. Figured we had a guest. Let's do a little bit of a trivia segment. It's going to be all about the Royal Rumble 2021. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Titantron.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Titantron right now. You're seeing my lovely face as well as Anthony's lovely face, and we are talking Royal Rumble. Now, why should you care about what I have to say? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Rewind, Recap, Relive, the show that I've been plugging for the better part of this episode includes stars like Ricky Morton, includes The Godfather, Teddy Long, Hornswoggle, The Great Khali, and the list goes on, and their great counterparts being Bronco Braxton. You got NPK, you got Sky Blue, who just came on with the returning ODB. She just made a great return in Impact, and so much more. And if you haven't got the gist of it yet, what we do is we take a veteran or a legend of the wrestling business and pair them up with a rising star for a great 1 hour, fantastic interview / seminar where you get some great advice. You hear about their careers, you hear about anything you'd want to hear about with these stars, and more. It's such a fantastic show. The vibe is very positive. Trust me, you're going to love it. What you're going to have to do is type in Rewind, Recap, Relive into YouTube, and you will find all of our 31 great episodes. So many hours of content on there. We've got some great collaborations as well, including this great one with Anthony. So make sure you check that out. If you want to find us on Twitter, look up at R3Jonah. That's Jonah, R3Jonah on Twitter, and Rewind, Recap, Relive everywhere else. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Check it out. Tell me I sent you, and I'll see you soon.
So, before we wrap things up today, I wanted to include a new segment onto today's episode, because, this is the first guest we've had of 2021, and I feel like we need a little bit of a little fun to end off today's episode. So I came up with a quick Royal Rumble 2021 trivia. So, Jonah, I have 5 questions for you, all pertaining to this past Sunday's Royal Rumble 2021 event. The questions are going to get a little more difficult as we go, so I hope that you were paying attention to your WWE network this past weekend, because we got some interesting questions for you. So are you ready for these 5 questions?
Wow. I am excited. Yeah, let's see it.
All right, here we go. Here we go. So, number 1, this is the first question. It's also the question that doesn't pertain to the 2 Rumble matches, but it does pertain to the first match that we saw on the card, which was Drew McIntyre defending his WWE title against Goldberg. Now, it was a pretty quick match, but very explosive. My question to you is, number 1, how many minutes was the WWE Championship match? Was it A, 2 minutes? Was it B, 2 minutes and 30 seconds? Was it C, 3 minutes? Or was it D, 3 minutes and 30 seconds?
I'm going to go with afterwards. I'm going to say why I got this answer. I'm going to say C, 3 minutes.
Okay. You want to say
All right.
why, or do you want me to?
No, just tell me if I'm right. I thought it was either C or D, but I'll go with C. I'll lock in C.
Well, I'm very sorry to say this was
Damn.
I figured this was the easiest question, but it was. I guess it was a little it threw you off a little bit with the times, but it was actually B, 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, let's refilm.
I actually thought it was 3 minutes as well, around like 3:09. I remember seeing that number, but it was 2:32 to be exact. So why did you think it was?
I was 8 seconds. The reason I thought this because my friend and I watching it live were taking bets on when it was going to end, and we at first said like, all right, when did it start? I think it was like 7:20 or something. When did you know what I'm talking? Like around that time?
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Sometime around there.
I remember saying like 7:25, no later, and we watched like the first spear, and I'm like, oh crap, we have to change this, and I think it ended up being like 7:18. It ended, and I think it started 7:16, I guess then. Got it wrong. You win some, you lose some. But that match was just so quick. It was hard to keep track. But that's crazy. 2 minutes and 32 seconds.
Hey, I gotta say that was the perfect time for it. They did everything they needed to. That was the perfect match that they could have pulled on there. So we move on to the Royal Rumble questions now. Number 2. So every man for himself in the Royal Rumble. We're going to do this question for the men's side of things. And, it's always a little embarrassing to see who the first man out always is. So my question to you is, who was the first man eliminated from this year's men's Royal Rumble match? Was it A, Sami Zayn? Was it B, Elias? Was it C, Jeff Hardy? Or was it D, Mustafa Ali?
I'm going to say, oh my God. Let's say Sami Zayn.
He was actually the second man eliminated.
Oh, was it Jeff? It was
Jeff Hardy.
Damn.
I put that one in there because it was like I looked back and I was like, really? Jeff Hardy was the first one eliminated?
No, I remember seeing Jeff come out and I was so disappointed that they didn't have like a little Jeff and Edge thing going on. Like I feel like Jeff came out and did nothing.
Definitely.
Pertaining to that earlier question, Jeff disappointed me. But anyway, damn, that sucks. 0 for 2. But yeah, I thought it was, I guess, who eliminated them? Do you remember? Was it the same guy?
Who eliminated Jeff? I think it was.
And Sammy. Was it the same? Were they like kind of back to back?
Sammy was eliminated by the New Day, I'm pretty sure. Wasn't it Xavier Woods?
Yeah, they said bye. Yeah, they were like, or something like that.
I think Jeff was eliminated by someone. I feel like it was Dolph Ziggler because I know Ziggler got like one elimination, and I think that was him.
All right.
I can't remember.
All right, number 3. Let's get this done.
All right, here we go. 3. These next 3, let's get them right. Let's get a positive record.
Let's get a positive record, yeah.
Come back from a 2-0 deficit. Call you the Cavs. Anyways, not exactly, but number 3. So what I love about the Royal Rumble match is that we always see some call-ups. And, not all of them stay all the time, but, all these call-ups from NXT are always great to see. My question to you is, which of these NXT call-ups were not featured from the Women's Royal Rumble match? So out of these 4, which one was not featured in the women's match? Was it A, Casey Catanzaro? Was it B, Santana Garrett? Was it C, Shotzi Blackheart? Or was it D, Dakota Kai?
It was A. Casey, yeah.
It was A, yeah. I put her in there because she was there last year, and she did that great spot. Yeah. I thought Santana Garrett would have messed you up there because I totally forgot she was in there, to be completely honest with you. I didn't even know she was under contract with NXT.
What I said when she came out? I go, oh my God, I thought it was Santina again with a different theme because I saw it across. It was like Santana. Totally different. I've heard the name, but I totally don't really know her that well.
Yeah, I knew she did a lot of stuff in other promotions, the independents, but I knew she signed to WWE 2 years ago or so. So that was cool that she did get a spot there. It was just a very weird spot for her. But anyways, let's move on to another question. All right, so you're 1 and 2. We got to get these 2. Yeah. Let's get this positive record. Okay, so next question here is, there's always someone in the Rumble who is the most dominant coming out of the match. And in the Women's Royal Rumble, it was no different. Which woman had the most eliminations in this year's Royal Rumble match? And these are all really good candidates, so bear with me here. Is it A, Shayna Baszler? Is it B, Charlotte? Was it C, Bianca Belair? Or was it D, Rhea Ripley?
I'm going to go with Ripley.
And you would be correct. It was Rhea Ripley.
Nice.
She had 7 eliminations, which I was surprised at. She had a lot of eliminations. Was that the record, or did Bianca Belair get 8?
I thought the record was 8. I thought the
Okay.
record was 8, yeah.
Very close, though, which was
Close.
a
It
really
would
good
make
showing
sense
for her.
that she got 7 and the record is 8, though. I feel like they want to leave that with Bianca for now.
Yeah, definitely. But it also makes Rhea look really good in defeat. You know, being the number 2, the last elimination, and having those 7 eliminations was really good for her there. All right, so we're 2-2. This is the tiebreaker. We got to get this one. And, you know, we've been saying it throughout the show. You know, you are an Edge fan, so I'm hoping that you get this one right. Do it for the Rated R Superstar. So
yeah, do it for Edge, you're right.
As we have mentioned, Edge did win the Royal Rumble match this year from the number 1 spot, making him the 3rd man in history to do so. My question to you is, how many minutes did Edge spend in the Royal Rumble match this year from the number 1 spot? Was it A, 55 minutes? Was it B, 52 minutes? Was it C, 58 minutes? Or was it D, 62 minutes?
I thought you were going to make this down to the second, and I was getting
No. I can't do that to you.
58 minutes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I had to check because, you know, on one website it said 58, but then Wiki was kind of saying something else, so I had to double check. But you were correct. Yeah. 58 minutes was the correct answer. So you pull out with the upset here, going 3-0 on those final questions.
That was pretty good.
Excellent job, by the way.
On the back. Yeah, solid array of questions too. It's funny, the easy ones are the ones that stump me, but I hope I did pretty good on that.
Awesome job.
I lost on James' show, but I won here. So
hey, no. Well, anyways, so we're gonna come back right after this with a little outro. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Titantron. And we are just about to wrap up things here on the Titantron. I want to thank each and every single of you for watching today's episode. But more importantly, Jonah, I want to thank you for coming out here, taking time out of your day to talk about the Royal Rumble. One more time, go ahead and plug your stuff and give us a reason to watch Rewind, Recap, and Relive.
Yeah, of course. So the reason you should watch Rewind, Recap, Relive, which you can find on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under that, Rewind, Recap, Relive, and under Twitter at R3JONAH, at R3Jonah. The reason you should watch our show is because we bring you the best wrestling superstars that are out there, both, I don't want to say young and old, but legend and veteran and rising star alike. You get to see a blast of all worlds of professional wrestling. Of course, some great minds for the business on there. Some like Raven, some like Ricky Morton we've had on there. We've even had Jake the Snake and Brutus Beefcake going back to some legends. And then we've had some newer stars on the horizon. As I mentioned earlier, Philly Mike Swanson, Tony Cini. We've had Big Dom Truex, who's 911 son from ECW days. We've had Mateo Valentine, who was just on with Blue Meanie. We're really diving into all areas of wrestling, every promotion you could think of. We've probably had somebody who's wrestled for it on the show. You get the inside scoop and you hear some great advice. And really, the people I like to reach out to, the people I like to get my product to reach are those rising stars. And if you see the show and you like it and you want to get almost like an hour-long seminar from a wrestler, get a chance to talk to them one-on-one, a veteran, a legend, you reach out to me at those platforms I mentioned, Rewind, Recap, Relive, and we'll try to get you on an episode. We'll definitely get you on an episode. It might just take a little bit, but you will be on the show. So feel free, check it out. It's a great show. And Anthony, I'd like to finish it up by saying thank you to you. And once I figure out collaborations on my end with my show, maybe I'll have you on as a co-host. You're welcome anytime. I hope the invitation's open to myself as well. But
of course. I'm looking for a co-host. So, I mean, if we could work something out, it's all about collaboration at the end of the day. So thank you for that offer. And of course, the offer is always extended out to you. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for watching today's Titantron episode. Of course, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, all the audio and video platforms that you could think of. We are there. Of course, the merch. Make sure you go ahead and purchase your own customized Titantron merchandise. The link is in our link tree, so go ahead and check those out. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for another successful episode of the Titantron. We will be back next week. But until then, take care.